Welcome students for today's lesson from your book First Flight. Today we will study a new poem, A Tiger in the Zoo by Leslie Norris. The poem is based on the life of imprisoned tiger who is walking to and fro inside a cage. About the poet, Leslie Norris was a famous poet and a short story writer. He was born in 21st May 1921 in Wales. He had decided at an early age that he would become a poet because he was very much interested in writing poetry. His first poem was published in 1938, but his first book of poetry came out in 1943. He shot to fame with his first publication, Finding Gold, and his other works are Phoenix Living Poets, Ransom, etc. His works won various awards including Comley Poetry Prize, the David Hume Memorial Prize, the Catherine Mansfield Memorial Award, the AML Award, etc. He was died in 6th April 2006. Introduction of the poem A Tiger in the Zoo is a lovely poem by Leslie Norris. The poem contrasts the tiger in the zoo to the tiger in its natural habitat. Poem expresses the agony and the helplessness of the caged tiger. The poem moves from the zoo to jungle and back again to the zoo. In his natural surroundings, the tiger is happy and joyful, but in a cage he is full of rage and trouble. The poem shows the great importance of freedom. Rhyme scheme. The poem consists of 5 stanzas, each is made up of 4 lines. Rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B. Stanza 1. He stalks in his vivid stripes. The few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. Stalks here means walks with pride or follow. Pads means cushion or soft mattress, but here in this poem the paws of the tiger it means velvet, a soft cloth, rage, anger, stripes, long line on the body, and vivid is very bright. Now the explanation. The tiger with vivid stripes walks hard in the cage. He looks majestic but captivated in a small cage. His pads are velvet-like soft. In spite of being most powerful and ferocious, he now is imprisoned and is just helpless. He is angry but cannot do anything. This helplessness gets reflected on his face. In this paragraph, the poet used personification. Personification is something that is not human, is given human characteristics. And here, poet used he for tiger. Stanza 2. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass, near the water hole where plump deer pass. Lurking means staying, hiding, or hidden. Sliding means walking with ease. Water hole is a small pool of water where animals go to drink water. Plump, fat, or fleshy. They use this plump for the deer. Explanation of the second stanza. The poet pities that the tiger should have been lurking and sliding in the tall grass instead of being in the cage. But here the tigers are kept in zoo, that means inside the cage. The poet wants to explain how his life could be if he had been free animal. He should have been in the natural habitat hunting and resting. Obviously, the poet implies that his freedom has been snatched from him. He should have been stalking some fatty deer near a water hole and lying there expecting a good feast. Third stanza. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. Snarling means making an aggressive growl. Bearing, not covered with. White fangs here is sharp teeth. Claws, nails of animals, terrorizing, creating fear. In this stanza, the poet says if the tiger had been free, he would have started making warning or roaring sound around the houses located at the border of the forest. He would frighten people with his sharp white teeth and sharp claws. He would create fear among the people living in the village. Fourth stanza. But he's locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. Locked means imprisoned, concrete cell made of cement and stone, that is cage. Strength is power, behind, backward, bars is prison, and ignoring, neglecting. The poet returns to the present world of the tiger. He is inside the cage, that is a strong cell which is made up of concrete. He further says that as the tiger is behind the bars, that's why his terror is also behind the bars, in the cage only. He walks in his confined area only and cannot frighten the visitors due to his restricted power in the cage. So he ignores the visitor who prolonged his suffering as they cannot let him rest in the cage. The poet implies the indifference of the officials towards his pathetic plight. Stanza 5. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling car, and stares with the brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Patrolling means on vigil or keep watching. Stares, look for a long time. Brilliant here, very bright eyes or shining. The poet imagines that in the night the tiger would be listening to the sound of the patrolling car only as there was no more sound like forest animals inside the zoo. He lost all hopes of getting into his natural habitat. He stares at the brilliant stars, seemingly praying to the Almighty for freedom. He seems to be searching for some hope and rest in the brilliant stars. His eyes are brilliant, which implies that he hopes for freedom someday. The poet tells that the tiger would feel agony due to his confined life and helplessness. So, to divert his thoughts, he would be looking at the shining stars. Poetic device repetition has been used over here. It is the repetition of words or phrases in the same line. For example, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Repetition of brilliant. Message. The poem conveys the message that animals should be allowed to live in their natural habitat. Then only they will get true happiness. The poem stresses the idea and necessity of freedom and how valuable it is.